So now it was 7-6 on aggregate, which sounds crazy because it is crazy. We came in that competition as a qualifier and are now in the final. And I'm really, really happy for the boys. I'm really happy for the club. I'm really happy for our fans. It was a fantastic ride so far. And yeah, now we will go to Kiev, which sounds crazy, and but it is the truth. We will go to Kiev. Do we have the widest squad in world football in the moment? No, we don't have it. So it's quite difficult moment. So that this group went to the final is exceptional. We get all the knocks over the season, all the knocks with injuries in the wrong moment, stuff like that, really difficult. And we still have to carry on. It's not that we can say now, so we are already qualified for Champions League next year. So Chelsea at the weekend is an unbelievably important game for us. I give the boys the night, that not because it's cool, they don't drink alcohol, so they can stay a little bit longer awake. Then we recover tomorrow, and then we go to Chelsea. And they have again the knife between the teeth and will fight for everything. So that's life. Then we have 1 week for the Brighton game, which is then, again, very, very important probably. So we cannot go to a Champions League final with nice football, constantly being better than the other team. That's not possible. And you have to suffer from time to time. That's how it is. And we suffered. Because we didn't finish the game, they could keep on going like they did. So, and that's all. If we scored a third one, which would have been possible, then the game is already decided. I don't know, 2.5 hours ago, but we didn't. So that's our fault, of course. But is there anything to criticize? No. These boys go constantly over their limit, constantly, and I'm really proud of that. And we have to do it 3 more times, and then we can be part of the Champions League next year again. And yeah, can be a good opponent in the final. That's first of all what you have to be, and then we will see what happens then.
Yeah, all eyes on Kiev and their opponents, Real Madrid, who made it a bit nervous themselves, didn't they, against Bayern Munich?
They did. I mean, they were nervous against Bayern Munich. They scored in the last minute and the last kick of the game against Juventus in the quarter-final. So I think Real Madrid are vulnerable this year. I don't think they're as good as the previous two times they've got to the final. Have won it under Zidane. I think maybe it's an end of this team, maybe the end of the manager as well. But the thing that Liverpool have got to be wary of is Real Madrid's ability to step up in the big games. We were talking about Ramos, we're talking about Ronaldo, Kroos, Modric. These players, when they get to the big finals, they're used to it. It's just like a training game for them.
It's a game that's almost impossible.
It's a crazy game.
Well, as Jurgen said, but it's almost impossible to predict as well. The only thing he would say, it's not going to end goalless, sure.
No, it's not going to end goalless because both sets of defenders like to go forward and leave huge gaps at the back. And you'd say both keepers have got a mistake in them as well. So there will be goals. Can Liverpool step up? Can they produce what they've produced so far in the competition, actually on the biggest stage in football, which is a Champions League final, against the best team, biggest club in probably world football in this competition? That is the test for them now. I think Jurgen Klopp was highlighting there that they've still got to play for the Champions League spot in the league, which might take a little bit of energy out. So Real Madrid are out, can't win the league, so they'll rest players. It's about getting that energy now back.
Well, that leads me on to my next question then. So why are they doing so well in Europe and so far away from Man City in the Premier League? 21 points behind them.
Yeah, well, look, I think they're a team that I think is better suited for one-off occasions, one-off games where, particularly when they play at Anfield in the first leg, they can blow teams away. Teams don't like going to Anfield, they don't like the atmosphere, the tight pitch, and Liverpool's style in terms of the high energy, high press and the Mo Salah effect has blown a lot of teams away in the Premier League and in the Champions League, but particularly in one game types of games. So I think they struggle over a season, but can they keep producing that type of high-energy, high-tempo performance, particularly sometimes against the lower teams?
Yeah, we've done our best, haven't we, to try and have a look at why, some of the reasons why perhaps Liverpool are so far behind Man City and why they're not challenging for the title this season. Let's have a look at some of the reasons why. Points lost from losing positions. We'll just get it up. They've lost 14 points from winning positions this season. If we're comparing it to Manchester City, that's what we're doing, and we'll say why are they so far behind. Man City have only dropped 5 points from a winning position, so that's a 9-point gap. straight away.
It's a negative. It's a negative when, you know, obviously they get into the lead, they take the lead early on. Do they tire later in games? Do they lack concentration? Do they not have the people on the bench to come on and maybe shore up a game? So that is definitely something that they need to improve on.
So teams feel as though they can get at Liverpool?
Yeah, well, I think teams feel as if they're never out the game, even when Liverpool go in front.
Most changes to a starting 11 as well, and it's something actually we've praised Jurgen Klopp a little bit this season because he's kept them fresh. I think the back end of last season they looked tired. This season they've looked fresher, but when you compare it again to Man City, it's the most in the top 4 divisions of English football in actual fact, not just the Premier League.
No.
128 changes compared to Man City, who are 51st out of 92 with 85.
Yeah, well, I think we've praised them a lot, haven't we, from January in terms of the risk that he's took with team selection, the rotation policy that he's got with, because they have to rotate, because you can't just play with 11 players with the way that he plays. The high tempo, the speed, the intensity of which they play, you have to rotate. But you look at the teams, and you made a great point, is that Ipswich, not had a great season. Norwich, not had a great season. Bury, they've gone down, which is my hometown club. Sheffield Wednesday have had a poor season. Sunderland have been relegated. So out of that top 6, 5 of the top 6 have had poor seasons, and they've rotated the most. So I just wonder whether Klopp's been very good at it, and the players that have come in have delivered. But you look at Man City, that tells you that they've had more consistency.
Do you think there's an element of him perhaps not knowing his best team as well?
There's probably a little bit of that, but I think there's also, particularly when you look in the midfield area and in the centre-back area, they've got players that are probably similar. Oxlade-Chamberlain, Wijnaldum, there's probably not much to choose between them. Chan and Henderson, Milner's come in and rotated. So he's got players they can trust.
Klavan, Lovren,
Matip. They're all similar, that probably don't vary between the performance levels. So he's been able to trust the players that he's got in his squad. Maybe the strength in depth's let him down.
OK. What about against the bottom 4? Because that's where Man City certainly excel. They've won all 7 games against teams in the current bottom 4. Liverpool have won 4 out of 8, drawn 3 and lost 1. Already there's a 6-point gap there, and Man City have got an extra game to play yet against the current bottom 4.
Before I looked at all the stats, I would say that this was probably the one area I thought the weakest at. You know, teams that go to Anfield, teams that play at their own stadiums, that defend deep, that don't allow Liverpool to actually counter-attack, to play on the break, that Liverpool have to try and break them down, and that's break them down with passing football, intricate play, imagination. I would have thought off the top of my head this was the area that I think that they need to improve. Maybe just bring in a midfield player that can unlock the door, and they do have struggled against teams that have sat deep.
So it's 9 points they've lost from losing positions. If City win this one, that'd be 24. That'd be another 9 points that they've dropped against teams in the current bottom 4. Not just the bottom 4. What about the top 8? Let's compare those, and actually Man City way ahead this time of Liverpool. Again, played a game more this time, but 16-point gap. They've won 10 of the 14 games against the current top 8. Liverpool have only won 3 out of their 13.
I'm shocked by the stat. I really am. I actually thought that they would have had a good record against the top 6 teams who would attack, that would open up, that would play expansive, and they actually haven't delivered against them. So ultimately, they've not done it against the top teams, they've not done it against the bottom teams. It's the middle-of-the-road teams that they've probably destroyed more than ever. So there are still massive areas to improve, but you can imagine if they just focused on the bottom half of the table and they got those 6 to 9 points back, they'd be above Manchester United. So it's a fine line, fine margins that Liverpool, it's the reason why they haven't been challenging City.
To underline what we've been talking about, we've cherry-picked some games, haven't we? And early on in the season, Liverpool against Watford lost from a winning position. This was to make them 3-2 ahead.
Well, I mean, I think if you look at the system early in the season, in fact, then we'll just take it back. It was a zonal system that they used to mark. And you look at that zonal system there, we used to always focus on these 2 players here. In the second zone, they were doing poor jobs in terms of protecting.
And this is last minute in the game.
Last minute of the game.
Van Dijk's made a big difference in this respect, hasn't he?
He has, and I think that's why they wanted him at the start of the season, because there was nobody taking responsibility. The keeper had a poor start to the game.
Well, that was Mignolet. That was Mignolet. So Karius has come in now, hasn't he? This was against Everton when they made a lot of changes over the Christmas period. I think 6 changes. Again,
Liverpool playing narrow game.
Areas, didn't they? The wide area.
If you look at
Robertson,
isn't the type to make runs out into wide areas.
He goes out to win.
You know, he likes to make runs diagonally inside. That's Danny Ings is there, and that's Firmino there. So they're actually playing really narrow in there, which meant it was actually quite easy for Stoke to defend. And when teams defend deep like this, Liverpool have struggled. And on Saturday was the first time I actually thought they looked a little bit fatigued, a bit leggy coming after the first leg against Roma.
We wouldn't have been talking about it, though, if this goes in. And so, I mean, the crowd thought it was in. Everyone watching was amazed, actually, that he hadn't scored.
I thought it was in. I was obviously covering the game, and I thought it was in. It was the first 2 or 3 minutes of the game. You put that away, they go on and win 3 or 4-0.
Again, you've got the 2 banks of 4, haven't you? Stoke.
Yeah.
So you've got to break that down, though, because, I mean, Man City do that, don't they? And we've seen it so often this season. They've knocked on the door so late in games and scored late goals, haven't they?
Yeah, but I think the difference between Man City and Liverpool is that when Liverpool don't have space behind for Salah to run or runs in behind there,
Mane, etc.
Mane, I think they struggle with having situations like this because I think the 3 in midfield, I'm not so sure they're the most creative.
Well, I was about to say that. If you're comparing them to, say, a De Bruyne or a David Silva.
Yeah. And for City, you've got Raheem Sterling who comes in, you've got Bernardo Silva, Leroy Sané.
They've missed Adam Lallana, though, haven't they, in that central midfield position?
They've not had him all season, really.
Had Coutinho the first half of the season, I guess.
Coutinho would make a difference in situations like this, but I think against teams that defend deep, I think that's where they've struggled this season because obviously Stoke then went on the counter-attack, but take nothing away, he has had an unbelievable season as a manager.
Yeah. Bobby Firmino, I mean, how good has he been this season?
Well, we talk about Salah, we talk about Mane, we talk about Henderson, Chan. I think Firmino, he is the vital cog that cements it together because of his unselfish work, the ability to bring players in. His defending from the front is as good as I've seen from a centre-forward, and I actually don't look at him as a centre-forward. I see him more as a number 10, a little bit in between, and a 9.5, really.
Just signed a new contract as well, 5-year deal. Very good contract, I'm sure. But it was funny, actually, listening to Jurgen Klopp talk about Firmino and saying about him, Salah's world-class 1 week, Mane's world-class 1 week. He said Firmino's world-class most weeks. Yeah,
because, and you can see that because it's the consistency that Jurgen Klopp feels. Because when he plays centre-forward, what he tends to do is he tends to drop in, and when he drops into the space, the 2, Mane and Salah, run through. He creates the space. He pulls the centre-backs out of position so others can score, which we'll show in a minute.
Let's have a look at it then.
He's so unselfish.
This is his last 8 games average position, and it's very similar, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dropping in off the front man, off the centre halves into a midfield position, and that's his average position.
Well, we think of the best centre forwards in the Premier League this year: Aguero, Harry Kane. They play high. They play on the shoulders of the centre back. I think with Firmino, he's different. He's different. He always starts up, but he always ends up coming off, which allows Mane.
We see that so often, don't we?
So often. And he's almost coming to the ball. So he comes short and the other 2 run through.
Well, we're talking about those, exactly that, those out-to-in runs.
Yeah.
You talked about Salah doesn't want to make the runs out wide, and Mane's the same. They both come in this way, and by Firmino coming to that position, he drags the centre-back out of the space for those 2 to run into.
He creates the space, absolutely. The minute that the centre-back vacates that space, he goes into there.
They recognise it.
He recognises it. It's worked. And you know what? I always think that this area is the worst area that a centre-back doesn't want to go in. He likes his centre-backs really close. This was against Bournemouth. They had 3 centre-backs at the time, Francis, Cook and Ake. They did not want to leave each other.
He's actually a number 10, isn't he, rather than a number 9?
He's more 10 than 9. Yeah, 100%. He's not on the back of plays on the shoulder of the defender. He likes to go into space.
Position
Look at him there now.
He's in that same position. And it's not about now making that run to try and get in the box. He's standing still because he's already in the space, isn't he?
He is. And I just wonder whether Liverpool, you see the spaces in there. He's in a number 10. He's in a number 10 position there. Bergkamp, Cantona, Zola, that type of position. I just wonder whether if he did have a centre forward up there, whether he would be even more effective for Liverpool. I also wonder whether that's where Klopp might take it next year in terms of... Well, they've got to keep improving every year, and I just wonder whether with Firmino, the positions that he likes to take up, that's him running in behind.
Yeah.
But the minute he runs in behind, look at the position of Salah. Salah always ends up in a goal-scoring opportunity, and Mane. So this is the unselfish work that we were talking about. He's a nightmare to play against. He's 6 foot.
His work rate as well.
His work rate, his strength.
You talk about defending starting from the front. He does start it off.
He does. The minute that the holding midfield player gets the ball, he always tries to dispossess. Look at him. Here is on the left-hand side. I think if you were a real number 9, Harry Kane, you'd be in here.
Once you've played it wide, then you might get in the box. And now he stood still again, though.
He stood still, but I think Harry Kane gets into the box there for the cross. He stood still because I think he just likes playing football. He likes linking. And like I say, he is the glue that holds Mane and Salah together. I know Salah gets all the glory, but Firmino takes up positions that make Salah and Mane play better.
Would Salah and Mane score as many goals as they have done with Kane up top?
No,
not Firmino.
No. If they had an out-and-out number 9 up top, they wouldn't have the spaces to run into because of the intelligence of Roberto Firmino. He's a fantastic player and a nightmare for centre-backs, because when you start a game, you think, well, I'm up against a centre-back, I'm up against a centre-forward here. But actually, you probably never get into contact with him because of the areas that he takes you into.
Yeah, we've talked about his movement. I mean, he's scored plenty of goals this season, but he's created an awful lot as well, hasn't he?
He has. And when we talk about unselfishness, I think this is his biggest quality. That he's probably just playing into an area, but it's this goal that I actually love, because the minute... And I go back to real centre-forwards that actually think, well, you know what? Real centre-forwards want to be in this area here. Not working properly. So the real centre-forwards want to be in that area there. He goes into...
Well, he's left all that space.
He goes into the wide area to create the space for Salah that goes into the middle. And you know what? When he wakes up in the morning, the first thing he thinks of is not, I want to score a goal today. The first thing he thinks of, how can I set up a goal? Again...
Well, but that's that position again. We were talking about dragging centre-halves out. So this is one centre-half. And there's the other centre-half. There's your 2 centre-backs for Southampton.
But the space...
That's exactly that. He's dragged it out of there, hasn't he?
The space is in there.
For Salah to run into.
And Salah just runs into. It's fantastic centre-forward play. But, like I say, he actually...
Look at that.
Brilliant.
I mean,
skill.
that's top class.
It's top class. World-class, that. That is world-class. Again, look at him defending.
That's the work rate we're talking about.
Work rate defending. Look at the position of Salah and Mane. They don't have to run back and defend. They're ready to actually go and counter-attack. And it's Firmino, really, that's doing all the donkey work all the time. And the minute he dispossesses it, yes, he gets into good positions. But like I say, I don't think he thinks like a normal centre-forward.
Fans appreciate that work rate as well, don't
His players will. His players...
that pass as well, again.
The pass is always weight perfect.
You can see the reaction of his teammates, because they know exactly what he gives to the team.
The manager loves him, the players love him, because he's one of those players.
No, it certainly is. Naby Keita's coming in the summer. Central midfield player.
Yeah.
What will he add to Liverpool next season?
He's got a fantastic pedigree. For Liverpool to buy him so early must mean that the top clubs in Europe was after him. They paid a lot of money for him. He's a goal scorer. I think he's got tenacity. He's obviously, with his 2 red cards in Germany this year, he can put a foot in. He's a natural replacement for Emre Can, because Emre Can's leaving on a free transfer. So Liverpool obviously thought they needed to cover that position. But I think he's a step up from Can. I really do.
Well, Can has played a bit, but he hasn't played back end of the season. So who does he replace then in that midfield? Because at the moment it's Henderson, Milner and Wijnaldum. Yeah, well, Oxlade-Chamberlain's out injured as well.
You'd think if it was Oxlade-Chamberlain and Wijnaldum on the right, you'd think he'd go in on the left and provide that energy that Oxlade-Chamberlain has, that Wijnaldum has, and they'll have 2 central midfield players that can really bomb forward. Because you know what, when Milner plays, he plays a slightly different game. So I think Keita comes in and matches up Oxlade-Chamberlain's qualities or Wijnaldum's qualities, and Henderson then is left to sit, or James Milner's left to sit.
Well, I mean, numbers-wise, if you look at his numbers, I mean, 6 goals, 5 assists. Oxlade-Chamberlain, if he plays on that right-hand side, 3 goals, 7 assists. If you start adding that from midfield as well as your front 3, and you've got 1 sitting then, Henderson probably, it's not bad, is it?
It's not. I mean, goals are something that are vital from midfield. You look at the passes, he doesn't pass it as much as the other midfield players, and that tells you that he's more of a runner. And I think being a runner is so important. I think that's why Oxlade-Chamberlain has been such a success. Because this style that Klopp plays suits him down to the ground.
Fast forward 3 months, you're Jurgen Klopp. What's Liverpool's starting 11 going to be at the start of the season that's going to really challenge for the title next season?
So really, what do they need? I think what we're best doing at the start is actually pick their team. And we'll go with goalkeeper at the start. I think goalkeeper's an area that we're all looking at. Look, I've got to say, Karius has surprised me. I think he's come in. I think it's helped Van Dijk being in front of him, Lovren being in front of him, having a settled back 4. But there's still a mistake in him.
Well, put him in the team. Put him in the team. Let's put his team that we think possibly will be. So, back 4?
Well, Van Dijk goes in. Lovren probably. You'd say he's probably number 1.
Alexander-Arnold at right back?
Well, definitely Robertson at left back. I think that's Alexander-Arnold or Gomez. We'll go with Alexander-Arnold because of his form in the last couple of weeks.
OK.
You go the midfield.
OK, let's have a look at the midfield.
I think Henderson picks himself, really, because he's the captain.
Yep, I think so, Henderson.
With Oxlade-Chamberlain out, you go Wijnaldum.
It has to be Wijnaldum, And who else has been playing in midfield? Let's put Mane in on the left-hand side. Up top, Salah on the right.
And Firmino
up top.
So you're thinking Oxlade-Chamberlain may be in midfield. Come August, you think he may be back there. So that's probably, give or take Milner, maybe. That's probably his strongest team.
That's his team at the moment.
Well, that maybe his Champions League final.
We've decided already, though, that isn't good enough.
No.
To win the Premier League title. They're 21 points behind Man City.
Yeah. So if we're looking at the gaps that I think...
Well, these front three, absolute nailed on, aren't they?
Absolutely. And we're talking about winning the league here and closing a 20-point gap. I think we've took Karius out. Look, I think Lovren maybe becomes a squad player then. And I think I'm looking at this midfield thinking...
Does that scare you?
Yeah, because that midfield, I don't see it as it having enough creativity. And you've got to think about the two teams in front of them, Man United. Man United have got Pogba, Herrera and Matic. Man City, De Bruyne, Silva and Fernandinho. You think so? They've got star quality. They've got star quality. So I'm thinking that you're looking at that there, you're thinking...
We have to be brutal, don't we, and say that?
Yeah.
So, would you take Henderson out as well, then?
I like Henderson. I'm a big fan of him. He's club captain. We're going to have to fight over that one. I see the positions as goalkeeper, centre-back and midfield. That's 3.
Yeah.
Maybe 4 with another midfield player as well, or another centre-forward.
So who are we talking then? Who's realistic target? Well, we know Keita's coming, don't we? So let's put Naby Keita in.
Yeah.
So Naby Keita comes in, yeah? So he's definitely coming in. So Keita, he adds a bit, doesn't he, to that midfield?
Well, look, he plays. The money that is spent on him, I think he plays. I think what we talked about before is the ability to get up and down with pace, with energy, with intensity. That would be a really good midfield.
Yeah.
Look, I just put Nick Pope in from Burnley, and we talked Jack Butland maybe as well. I like this kid. I think he's done really well. Is he ready to step up yet? We're not sure.
It'd be a test, wouldn't it?
It would be a big test. But you know what? In terms of current form, is there anyone better?
In the Premier League,
that's available.
We're talking about in the Premier League.
In the Premier League at this moment.
Because outside the Premier League, they've been linked to Alisson.
Yeah.
Of Rome.
Yeah, they have. But I think I'm on about keepers that are available. Butland might be available. Pope, I think you can.
It has been strong links to Alisson, though.
Yes. Well, it sounds like we're going to go Alisson.
Well, you're fighting over Henderson. I'll tell you what, we'll have Alisson in the goal.
No, I just like English talent, you know. So if we're going foreign, then Alisson from Rome goes in there. He's a world-class goalkeeper. And then we're looking at centre-backs then. And
I'll tell you what, pick a young centre-back then, maybe, from the Premier League.
First of all, we went Tarkowski. And we thought, has he got the ability to step up?
Or Ben Mee, even.
Ben Mee, who never gets a mention. And then we looked at the transfer market and thought, he's available for $3 million.
That'd be a good fit, wouldn't it?
Well, all of a sudden, you're looking at that back four and you're thinking, Van Dijk has got the star quality, the size. Evans has got the experience, the calmness, the ability on the ball. I actually think looks quite a good partnership.
And now are we looking at...
But there's no way in the world that Johnny Evans can play for Liverpool.
Well, after playing for Man United?
After playing for Man United.
There's talk about him going to Man City.
Yeah, well, I'll personally go round to his house, I think, if he signs for either of those clubs. No, but it'd be a good signing for Liverpool.
OK, in all seriousness, if we look at this team, is that now closer to Man City, or is there still a bit more that needs to be done?
Look, I think there's still a bit more. I think there's still a bit more to be done. I look at, and I keep thinking, who's going to come on for Firmino if Firmino needs resting, Salah needs resting,
Ings and Solanke.
Ings and Solanke are... You've got Daniel Sturridge as well at West Brom who could come back. I'm just thinking they need one more, maybe of real quality. And it's difficult. It's like the Harry Kane one. Who's going to come in and play second fiddle to Mane, Firmino and Salah? It's going to be difficult, but I think they just need maybe one more player up there. So you're talking 3 or 4 players.
Interesting.
To get them closer... I'm not saying to win the league, but to get them closer to winning, to challenging.
Well, what about this game this weekend, then, against Chelsea?
Yeah.
It's a big game, isn't it?
It's a big game, and it feels like early in the season, this would probably one of the games of the season. Now it seems like because of Chelsea being a little bit anonymous at the moment in time and Liverpool qualifying for the Champions League, are they going to be focused? It feels like it doesn't have the same importance as in past.
If Liverpool win, it guarantees Champions League football.
So they'll have to go for it
next season. But, well, the problem is it comes on the back of the Champions League game, doesn't it, where they put so much into that, so much effort, that you wonder whether they're going to be able to replicate that again this week.
Well, I just wonder whether Mo Salah can keep playing every week. Against Stoke last week, I thought he did look a little bit fatigued. Even the couple of chances he had, he just looked a little bit I just wonder whether it's time for him to have a rest.
Golden boot?
Golden boot will be something
as well.
Look, I think Jurgen Klopp just wants to keep him going because he's on that type of run. Maybe Mo Salah saying, you leave me out if you dare, because I want to score as many goals and break every record possible for Liverpool and for the Premier League. So it's a difficult one to call, the Liverpool team. And what I've got to say is that they haven't got that many options on the bench. If you want to rest one of the midfield three with Chan out, with Oxlade-Chamberlain out, last week he played Trent Alexander-Arnold in midfield because of the lack of quality on the bench.
I think that's interesting, actually, when you're talking about Liverpool, again, for next season we're talking, aren't we? You're talking about filling the squad, aren't you?
The bench.
Exactly, the bench. So the people that can come on and make a change. If we compare it even to Chelsea's bench, you'd probably prefer Chelsea's bench to Liverpool's, wouldn't you?
Well, you know, I was just thinking, if you put that bench to there, you'd probably say Liverpool might be title contenders next year, because you think you can bring Morata on.
Well, if you're going to make 128 changes, then you've got to have quality on the bench.
You've got to have quality, but you've got to have quality that'll score you goals, provide you goals, play in midfield, shore up at the back with experience. Do you know what I mean? So I think if you swap benches, all of a sudden you've got maybe a title-winning team. At the moment, that bench, and you're only as strong as your bench, I don't think that bench is strong enough to actually win Liverpool a league.
Well, we've been Liverpool heavy. Let's just quickly talk about Chelsea. If they don't finish in the Champions League positions, do you worry that Willian, Hazard, potentially might not be at the club?
Well, they didn't leave last time, did they? Last time they finished outside the Champions League, they didn't leave. I actually not a clue about Chelsea at this moment in time. I don't know where they are, what they're doing, what the focus is. I know they're in an FA Cup final, but I actually have no clue where they're at. I keep listening to their players talking, the manager talking. It's actually not very inspirational. If I was a Chelsea supporter, I'd be a little bit, where we're going with this, because ultimately they've not performed.
They have to win this game, though.
They have to win.
So what do we think?
Well, the thing with Chelsea is they've got to take advantage of the fact that they've played 3 massive games over the last 3 weeks, the last 10 days, and they've got to get out there. And these players, these front three, have got to perform. This player and this player in midfield have got to show the energy. And Chelsea have got to do to Liverpool what Liverpool normally do to other teams. They've got to steamroll them.
So?
Draw.
I think with Chelsea, the necessity that they have to win, the fact that Liverpool have put so much into the Champions League, I'm going to go Chelsea. But it's certainly going to be fascinating. Right, we're going to take a little break now. When we come back...